Welcome. This is Charlie from CIC News for You with a topic that is being actively discussed with not much background information being provided. This topic will be on Antifa. Each of us, as citizens, should know the background and intentions of Antifa, whether you agree with this group or not. This video will be a short summary on Antifa, the US version, and whether Antifa is a terrorist organization as suggested in recent days. I hope to provide you information to make up your own decision about Antifa. Let's continue. Let's start with a short background on Antifa in the United States. The reason I say in the United States is because Antifa or forms of Antifa have been around for a long time and originated in Europe and other countries. I will only be covering the US version of Antifa that is not that old and in fact became prominent just after the 2016 elections, basically in response to the election of Donald Trump. So what does Antifa stand for? Antifa is short for anti-fascist. That brings us to what is a fascist? So per dictionary.com, fascism is a governmental system led by a dictator having complete power, forcibly suppressing opposition and criticism, regimenting all industry, commerce, and having emphasizing an aggressive nationalism and often racism. So anti-fascist doesn't sound that bad, does it? I would be against all those fascist things I just mentioned. So on the cover, Antifa sounds like it would be an organization that we would want. But how is the Antifa US defined? According to Wikipedia, the Antifa movement in the United States is a militant, left-wing, anti-fascist political activist movement with an aim to achieve their political objectives through the use of direct action rather than through policy reform. Kind of sounds like a group that is going to go against the law to do good things. Right? They want to fight fascism, and fascism is bad. The problem is the Antifa US version believes the Trump administration is fascist and is doing everything it can to destroy this administration and impact the 2020 elections. Get that? They are calling our government fascist, and they plan to interfere in our elections by impacting everything this administration does. This is my opinion and may or may not be correct, but nonetheless, that is what I believe. So let's continue with understanding Antifa. But first, a question for you. Why have the Democrats been complicit by staying silent over the past 3 years each and every time Antifa was committing crimes and performing violence at rallies and gatherings? The answer is quite simple. Because Antifa was anti-Trump. The Democrats have basically remained silent each time Antifa was committing violent acts and disrupted protests because it was against Trump. And this opportunity could not be passed up by the Democrats, in my opinion, of course. I attribute this to the Trump derangement syndrome that many people have caught. This is a bad disease and not good for our country. But the good thing is we know the cure. Vote the Democrats out of power. We need to win the executive, Senate, and House to clean up our current mess. But anyways, once Antifa announced it was anti-Trump, the Democrats were hands off, not wanting to impede anything or anyone that is against Trump. This extreme hate is really confusing to me. I understand not liking a president, but this goes to hate in the third degree. Maybe the liberals were getting too comfortable, and Trump came in and disrupted their party. We are only now beginning to hear some negative comments about Antifa from the left. Only because it is now becoming quite apparent of their criminal intentions. I personally believe there are Democrats involved with the group, and it would not surprise me if some congressional members are at least informed of what's going on. Again, this statement is purely my opinion. Back in the day, when we didn't like the president or the administration that was in office, we voted them out. I guess this is old school thinking because Antifa is taking us down another path. And that path is not peaceful. Antifa doesn't intend to use our normal process, but intends to destroy this current administration by force and terroristic tactics. And unfortunately, the news media is failing to report. Even now, there are no media companies on the left reporting a lot of this information. But hopefully the tide is turning to transparency and truth. All right, who started Antifa? The assumed founder for Antifa USA is Mike Bray. He is or was an educator and lecturer at Dartmouth and Rutgers. And we wonder where our kids get their anti-American bias. Truly, it is from our college campuses. There are many progressives, liberals, socialists, and communists teaching at our colleges and providing our kids anti-American philosophy and neglecting to teach our history, even though we had good and bad periods. However, it is our history and we do keep getting better. All of the ideologies of these liberal professors are proven failures through the history of man. This is concerning, but a topic for another video. I would also bet a lot of Antifa members come from the campuses throughout the United States and fit very well in the group. I don't know this for a fact, but it will come out as the FBI infiltrates the group. But with all the secrecy, this may take some time. Now for some quick points on Antifa, many of which are based on comments from the founder, Mike Bray. There's no official organization and no official leaders, so it makes tracking and understanding this group very difficult. There is an extreme vetting process to get a foot into the door of this group because the group is concerned about being infiltrated. Kind of sounds like the KKK or ISIS or other extremist groups with violence as a key method of use. Antifa seeks to deny their opposition the right to speak, and they're disrupting rallies and meetings and anything else they can. And if disruption doesn't work, the group states it is acceptable to deploy violence to make an impact. A recent report, actually that I just read this morning, stated that a reporter infiltrated the group and heard promotion of extreme violence, such as eye gouging and destroying the enemy. Can you believe this? Hopefully more undercover work will bring out more details. This group needs to be controlled. Mark Bray, the founder, stated officially that there is no underlying organization, but yet he provides the proceeds of this book that he calls the Antifa Handbook to Antifa. Huh? He says there's no organization, but yet he writes checks paying support to Antifa. Who does he write these checks to? I wonder. Hopefully, the FBI will find out. So that is Antifa US in a nutshell. Let's go a bit further and touch on radicalization before I get to terrorism. In the United States, particularly with politics, we have a radical left and a radical right. Both of these groups are bad for America and need to be controlled for our nation's safety. Let's quickly cover some key points of these groups. In the middle column, you will see an outline of some of the common areas of agreement between the groups, but with contrasting views, such as law and order, which both sides believe in, but the how and methods vary considerably between the groups. There are other areas as well, such as patriotism, religion, family values, and more. When it comes to public policy and personal beliefs, the two groups are at opposite ends of the spectrum. And finally, we have agreeable methods that both groups use to meet their objectives. And all of these methods are bad and some illegal. As an example, censoring the opposition, the acceptability of violence, and most importantly, as members believe that accomplishing goals of the group is considered working towards a higher purpose. This reminds me of jihad groups and their beliefs that they do everything for Islam. It is sad, but that is how these folks believe. Both sides, the extreme left and the extreme right. That was all the general stuff, and I've provided additional details on group terms and group names for your reference. But let me make a key point, which is at the bottom of this slide, called Know the Difference. Now, what do I mean about that? I am concerned about the way our media is reporting violence at riots and demonstrations. When reporting, they often state that the violence is being done by white people or white activists. I'm not sure why they are not being clear in identifying these folks as white Antifa activists or just Antifa. The reason I say this is because people could confuse the issue of whether it is a far left or a far right problem. Of course, both groups are bad. Many folks, myself included, would normally associate white activists to the white supremacists from the radical right. And historically, they have been in the news. The Antifa group is new, and they are on the radical left. While both groups are bad, the media needs to differentiate so people don't associate this with the extreme right. Generalizations could make people believe it is one group when it is not. Why doesn't the media just say Antifa? Is there a reason? Maybe I'm making too much of this, and it's just me being OCD. I don't know. You decide. I'm just pointing it out, and either way, both the left and right radicals are bad and unacceptable in this country, in my opinion. Let's continue and cover terrorism so you can decide if the shoe fits for Antifa. Let's start with the definition of terrorism. The unlawful use of violence and intimidation, especially against civilians, in the pursuit of political aims. That seems like a pretty clear definition to me. Now, does Antifa fit this definition? Let's see. Let's start by briefly looking at the column in the middle, Antifa protests. They seem to be very active, and this only lists some events. But I have no issues with any of these protests. That is an American right. It's something we cherish as a country. So they can protest all they want. Nothing wrong with that. Now, let's review the other information on the actions of Antifa. Spraying chemicals and using paint-filled balloons along with milkshakes, which is a cup filled with quick-drying cement. How would you like to have that thrown at you? I imagine it is quite hard to clean up. How about carrying concrete or bricks in their backpacks and using bats, clubs, and other items with intent to injure people? Add destruction of property, which is common when Antifa shows up. They've also caused cancellation of events because of threats from the group. Directly attacking people is also evidenced by a news editor sent to the emergency room for being attacked by fists and milkshakes. Okay, enough. Let's break down the definition of terrorism once more and see if it fits. The unlawful use of violence and intimidation. That's a yes. Especially against civilians. That's a yes. And in the pursuit of political aims. And that's a yes. Now add on the standard black garb with backpacks and masks, and you have a scary group with ill intentions. We now have evidence that clearly Antifa is a terroristic group, in my opinion. You decide if you agree based on what I provided. The decision is yours, my friends. terroristic group or not. Either way, we need to be concerned. Okay, that is my update for this video, and I hope it was informative for you. I provided you what I found in my research so you can decide, is Antifa a terrorist organization? I really appreciate all of you following my page and all your comments that you provide, and I thank you for watching this video. Thank you so much. Be safe, be informed, and stay informed with CIC News for You. Signing off, Charlie.